bar section.
Yeah.
Like, the hot bar food section thing.
Yeah.
Which is good food, don't get me wrong. But I think it was like...
You walked out of there paying at least $25.
Oh, wait. I spent like 40. I got like a protein bar. I got the beverage. It added up. I got a little turmeric ginger shot thing because, I got to stay on my health.
Health is wealth.
As Haroon can tell you.
Yeah, exactly. We miss you, Odin.
Yeah, we should probably explain that. But
before we do that,
welcome back to the #1 financial literacy podcast in the world. Sitting next to me, my sexy co-host, the one and only partner in time, Saied Omar.
Thank you, my man. Sitting next to me on my left is my partner in crime, Chris Nahibi.
And behind the ones and twos is the man, the myth, the baby-making legend that he is. He's not there. Haroon.
Yeah, we miss him. We hope him and the family are all doing well. He is a baby-making legend.
Yeah, so he's going to be out on a little bit of a parental PTO for an extended period of time, the length of which has yet to be determined.
Yeah.
Sound about right?
He wants to make sure that the family's well situated.
Which, I get. You got two, you got a pregnant wife. We both have kids.
Yeah.
When the wife is pregnant, she should get a lot of help and assistance along the way. So kudos to him for being the more honorable version of the three of us.
Clearly better than both of us.
So with that, it should be probably something we should come forward with and say, like, we don't know what his schedule is going to look like. Obviously, pregnancy lasts 9 months. So he may or may not be back anytime soon. So we're contemplating which stuffed animal to put behind the desk to represent him. Saied did.
What did I say?
You said
what
fat,
I did. I did not.
Albert plushie.
I did. That was just because the listeners. That's what we've.
You said a fat Albert plushie. That's
honestly,
the
truth. He's more like a teddy bear. We should put a teddy bear.
I was thinking a big cuddly teddy bear.
Yeah.
And then putting his face on
life
it
size. Yeah.
And then actually get his camera working so you can see the teddy bear, but not him.
We should go. Yeah, we should go to Build-A-Bear and actually build one out and put his voice in it.
Or I could go to previous episodes and get him going like, or just coughing in the background and put that as one of the buttons on the panel that we could just push.
Oh yeah, we could theoretically bring the panel back out here.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to if we don't have a producer back there.
Yeah.
So we don't have a producer back there. That means you get us with iPhones in hand going over what I think is a pretty robust show of information. But it's going to be a little bit more of an adjustment period for us, more so than for you. But hopefully you like it. Anecdotally, we are also recording on Saturday, which is an unusually quick turnaround time where today's Saturday the 23rd. We're turning this around in 3 days on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
So just before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, you're right. Just before Thanksgiving. That's right. You got plans?
I got a board meeting on Tuesday, and then I was hoping to not have to go to work on Wednesday, but given some things that are going on here, I'll probably be at work on Wednesday and then take Thursday off. So not really any good plans.
Really? I know you have family back in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever gone out there for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I've gone out there before Thanksgiving. My mom's having a bit of a surgery, nothing major, but something that she needs to do as she's getting older. And she's really emotionally upset about it. Not the least of which is because she's lost a ton of weight, well over 150 pounds at this point.
Wow.
She's starting to get like my face. I have like a little bit of like that indented cheek thing going on.
They call that the Ozempic face?
Yeah. Well, I'm on tirzepatide.
Yeah.
My mom was too, Mounjaro.
Right.
And she had to come off of it for the surgery, and she's so upset about it.
Oh,
because she's made so much progress.
Has she come off yet?
Yeah, she's been off for a couple weeks. She had to be off for
so what is the appetite remaining the same, or
she said she's not eating more, but she said that she certainly has the cravings that she had before that were really muted.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of it being like a passing like thought, oh, that'd be kind of cool, like, but she's over it. She's like, I really want like that cheeseburger.
Yeah, exactly.
But so she's kind of fighting with those internal mental demons, which actually. So we'll take a little detour off the show today.
Let's do this.
Okay. When I'm
all about the detours, the forks in the road.
Fork well played. Yeah. When I originally had testosterone replacement therapy, I think I've told you this story. I think I've talked about it on the show before, but it's a great example of why we're demonizing GLP-1s.
Mm-hmm.
I got a shot of testosterone, my first one, and my testosterone was like 369. It was pretty low. And that was at its highest point in the day. So presumptively, it was even lower in the evening. So in the evening time, I'm watching Peaky Blinders. It was like a season finale or something like that. And I got oddly emotional in a not really emotional scene. I started having hot flashes. I was upstairs in the shower. I couldn't face the shower because I had a very high nipple sensitivity. My wife was laughing at me because I was going through she said menopause.
Right.
But that was the first moment where I had a huge appreciation for what females go through whenever they're going through their hormonal cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there is something to be said, and I don't think that any human's ever really articulated it well to me. So maybe there's somebody out there who's smarter that can say it, but there is a chemical component to how you really feel and think.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way I can express it is the day I got that shot when I was at home watching Peaky Blinders, there was this feeling in my brain that just felt different and I couldn't articulate it. When I called the doctor the next day, he was like, that was literally the dopamine rushing back to your brain because testosterone is such a huge lift to dopamine and serotonin production. And there's a whole chemistry there. And I thought to myself, like, oh my God, like the happy chemical was going to my brain and it felt foreign.
Oh, like you hadn't experienced it in a very long time.
Like it felt different, but it was making me feel things not only on a physical level, like feeling like my brain feel different, but emotionally different.
Yeah.
I literally emotionally felt happier as a result of it. And I've never been on like mood altering drugs, SSRIs, or anything like that. I've never been on any of that stuff, right?
Yeah, neither have I.
Closest I've ever been to that is painkillers, and I very rarely take any painkillers, not even Tylenol, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really weird sensation. And on the GLP-1s, they're demonized because people are like, well, just stop eating.
Or like just go on a 16-hour fast.
And I've long had this theory, which I know some people are going to disagree with. But we all have very, very different biological chemical ecosystems inside of us. It's the same ecosystem, but our levels are all different.
Yeah,
That's why your testosterone's different than mine, right?
Yeah, just DNA, genetics, all that, right?
It all plays into effect.
Yeah.
I got a study once back from I think it was 23andMe, bad name right about now, but it was one of those like blood tests that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And true story, one of the things according to my DNA that my ancestry has is I am prone to having lower strength levels.
What?
It's only 8% of your actual, according to them anyway. This is I've never fact checked this, but according to them, it's about 8% of the probability of your strength is based on your genetics. So it's not a huge lift, but 8% makes a big difference in the real world of sports and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But according to them, I'm supposed to be weaker than most. And that explains, like, I've always struggled to add, like, strength to my bench press and strength to my heavier movements. I can get lean. Well, I can build muscle mass.
I mean, a lot of that has to do with your height, too. It makes it the weight has to travel a little bit further.
Well, yeah, and I've also got a bigger cantilever system because my arms are just longer and
That's
stuff
my point.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way I look at GLP-1s and the way people are like, well, just don't do that, just don't do this, is there is such a big difference in how somebody who eats to get obese feels, and their chemistry is working, than somebody who's never been obese is. And it's easy for somebody in those positions to say, oh, I've been a little overweight.
I know.
To say, oh, I've been overweight. If you went on a bulk, dude, to gain weight, that's not the same.
It's completely different. I mean, I think the docuseries or the documentary that really highlighted this for me when the first time I saw it was that Super Size Me documentary.
Yeah, great documentary.
Right?
And he died.
He did?
I think he died, yeah.
Oh my God,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Damn. But he would literally say, I'm feeling depressed. I want to eat to make myself feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And he would eat. He'd get the dopamine rush, and then
But think of that person.
20 minutes later, back to depression.
Yeah, but think about that person. And this is why you get people who like obsessively compulsively shop, or they go on Amazon all the time. Or it's those subtle like subtle wins throughout your day that give you those hits of dopamine, and how your body's physiology and its chemistry responds to it.
Yep.
It's strange. It's super strange to me. But I also see people who are like hyper lean all the time, or they're like really, really young for their age, and you're like, of course my chemistry isn't the same as yours. Look at you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, just the experiences that you're going through in life at that time, right?
Yeah.
I got different stress levels.
And I look at people that are like athletes and athletic in general that are hyper lean, and you have to wonder, like, do you have naturally higher reoccurring levels of like human growth hormone than me? Because I've taken stuff, testosterone and IGF-1, which enhance your HGH levels. And I can tell you, and this is a sad statement because my body is this way now, and it wasn't always this way. I can eat all the things that would have absolutely made me gain weight before now, and I don't gain weight. I've been eating like complete trash the last couple of weeks, including this PRP thing on my elbow. Haven't really been working out anywhere near the cadence I normally would. And
but you're also not like overeating.
True, but historically speaking, eating those things would have caused me to gain weight. I got on the scale, I've gained 0.7 pounds. in 2 weeks of doing nothing besides eating like trash and barely working out.
Barely working out. Wow.
And that's the difference that chemistry makes. And people want to bastardize GLP-1s, and I don't get it. I just don't
How much
get
do you
it.
know about like when you get your blood work, or what can they do to actually measure your stress levels?
There's a cortisol test they can run. There's also stress tests that they can run, which monitor
those
other
accurate?
biometrics.
Are those accurate?
Yeah, the ones for cortisol, that's just a blood marker in your system. You can get
Yeah.
it. And I think that does play a whole lot. The problem is a lot like testosterone, your naturally positioned cortisol levels might be just naturally higher than other people's. So you have to kind of get a baseline and see it over time.
Yeah, and you have to measure at the same time, right? Because I think there was a study that came out. I mean, Huberman was
Yeah.
talking about this, where if you wake up in the morning, you shouldn't rush to get that cup of coffee right away.
Because you don't want to hit your cortisol levels that spike up.
Yep. Yeah. So you want to give it about an hour or so.
Yeah, there's a lot of circadian rhythm built into this. As I've gotten older in my life, especially when I crossed my 40s, that wound up being such a huge part of my physiological success, if that makes sense.
Right.
This is going to sound really cliche, like influencer bro stuff, but it's the truth. I would wake up in the morning and I would go straight to an energy drink. Now I wake up in the morning and I typically go straight to the bike and then a cold plunge, right? And the cold plunge does add the same kind of cortisol response, but for me, I do get that temporary hit of dopamine that gets my day started right, and it's really hard for me to go back to sleep when I'm cold.
Yeah. Okay.
So it just starts my day, and I'm not advocating for any of the benefits. I'm just saying for me, it's great.
Mhm.
Somebody criticized me not too long ago about the whole cold plunge thing and said that the science doesn't really definitively support it, and my response was shocking to him when I said, "Yeah, it doesn't."
Yeah.
I said, but there's a lot of things we found out over time through science that it didn't support it that we found out were very good, like saunas, for example.
Mhm.
We know saunas are good for you.
Yeah. Right.
The American Indians knew that, right?
Mhm.
I would say people have done cold plunges in like these Arctic groups that go up to the places that what are they called? Where they just dive, polar clubs. They dive into like the water and stuff like that. They've done that for centuries.
Well, it's hard. It's really hard to measure. Like, when they say, I think Goggins says it, or I think our boy Casey Neistat recently came out with a video that I watched. Like, when you do something really hard first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to measure how that can be ultra productive for you for the rest of your day.
For me personally, and it wasn't because of them. It's just because I started doing the cold plunge thing because I wanted to try it. Now my day feels just worse when I don't do that in the morning. And it's not just that. The bike, then the cold plunge every single morning. Like that's that 30-minute-ish routine, probably like 25.
Right.
That difficulty in my day sets the cadence of the rest of the day in a way it's intangible. It's hard to explain. I talk about it a lot with people. They think I'm just some kind of influencer bro or something. But it's meaningful. And the only way I can get people to really buy in is I say, just do it. I get you got all the skepticism and criticism
Just
in the
try
world.
it. Give it a try.
Just do it. And what I did is I told myself I'm going to do this every single day for 30 days.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to stop.
Yeah. But now does it throw off your day when you don't do it?
Yes.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, but what I've typically done is I will work out in the mornings, and then if I can go someplace, like when I go to Dallas Crescent Court, they have a cold plunge there in the mornings. Then I will try to go someplace that has access to it, and a lot of equinoxes now have cold plunges there. So I'll just try to find a way to get it in. Even if I can't, I'll take a cold shower. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Which is not as fun. Cold showers for some reason are torturing me, comparatively speaking. We do have a lot to get into this show, but I did want to. I told Saied I was going to do this on the show, and I thought it was probably worthwhile. We talk a lot about all the wins, and I don't really cover a lot of the losses. And there's some things I can't talk about publicly just because there's obligations behind them. But,
What do you mean by the wins and the losses?
well, we talk about a lot of the finance stuff. We talk a lot about
How we've
business
gotten
in general.
lucky
and-
over the years with some of the real estate investments that
Yeah.
we've made and whatnot. Yep.
But I think one of the biggest challenges, I didn't start the clock, damn it. One of the biggest challenges that I see in my life is that there's an element I think people don't understand of the complexities of the job. And somebody who's older than me, who's still in the same position she was decades ago, once said to me, "Chris, are you sure you want to elevate in your career?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, there's a lot of political bullshit. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of challenges that come with that. Yes, it comes with more money, but you also lose time with your family. You also lose the ability to have the autonomy to leave your job at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock."
There are sacrifices that need to be made. Yeah.
So I thought this would be a good couple of weeks to share with people. 2 weeks ago, I was in the appellate court hearing a case, which is in part one that's suing me for 60 million.
Okay.
Right, and we have insurance and it's covered, and I fully expect to be away from it. But I believe that it is malicious prosecution, and I believe that I have been wrongfully targeted for reasons that are unfair.
Mm.
That's a difficult thing to go through,
Oof.
and to see, an appellate court of three justices, very well articulated, very up to speed, and very very professional how they handled it, with attorneys arguing both sides. One side's job is to argue for their client. My side's job is to argue for their client. And there's going to be some things that are going to sound unfair, untrue to you, no matter how
Right.
right or wrong you were.
Right.
The legal system is not perfect. That was stressful. And I spent the last week in arbitration over a matter that I cannot speak about publicly, but I can tell you that I truly feel that we did the right thing ethically and morally, but it was being painted in a very callous way. And it's unfortunate that it was painted that way. I'm not allowed to speak about the resolution, and I'm not going to. But what I will say is there was also some pretty significant personal attacks on my character in this conversation. And as easy as it is to take it personal, and I imagine a lot of celebrities deal with situations like this. I am by no means saying that I'm a celebrity. I'm just saying that when you're a celebrity, people are going to have informed opinions about who you are and the things you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're an executive at a publicly traded company, the same thing's going to happen to you.
Absolutely. I mean, there's certain job titles,
Mhm.
even, right? Like if you're an attorney, people feel a certain type of way about them.
Yeah, and one of the critical parts of this particular arbitration, and many like it, is that if they want to try to impeach your credibility for things like truth and veracity, your character, they're going to find things even that extend beyond the subject that's a topic. So even though these things happen in the office, they wanted to go after my personal life and things in that nature to try to show that I have a propensity to lie. So
Mm.
therefore, I cannot be trusted in a situation like this.
Mm.
I've always felt that's pretty. You got to do it when you got to do it as an attorney, and I respect the reasons why you have to do it. But I've always felt that should be the worst. That should be the last possible option before you go there, because that now you're attacking things that question your credibility as an attorney, attacking me on the same topic, right?
Right.
Are you being malicious, or is there something there?
Mm-hmm.
And you go through several days of this, and so it's emotionally taxing. And then I get into the office, and it's now public, so I'm not telling anybody anything that anybody doesn't know. And my friend and CEO of the last 17, almost 20 years is no longer the CEO of the company.
Our friend, yeah, both of
Yeah.
us, yeah.
And again, not saying anybody right or wrong or good or bad or any of those things, but what I am saying is this is a lot of like emotional triggering things in the ether, in the zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very difficult week. It was emotional. And even during the arbitration, my attorney, when she brought me on direct examination, actually had to pull me out of the room and stop, because all these things had coalesced at the same day. I had spent the entire night at the animal hospital. My Misha, our 17-year-old cat, was in the hospital, and I was told she probably wasn't going to make it. Now, luckily, she's okay, and she's got some life left in her, and she's back home now, and she's starting to get acclimated. But I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that she was in the hospital. My son is doing really, really well at school, but there was a whole psychological evaluation my wife wanted done, which actually wound up being very, very good and okay. But there was that. I just got a report on that. I hadn't had a chance to read it. I found out about my friend and the CEO and our friend and the CEO,
Mm-hmm.
and I just came out. The appellate court last week,
That's a
this
lot.
arbitration this week.
So let me ask you, how someone in your position, obviously, most people don't even know that you're going through those things. You can't even disclose some of these things that you're going
And
going
there's
through.
a lot more that I still can't disclose.
There's
Yeah.
still a lot
Yeah.
more. And how do you even begin to, obviously this takes years. It's not just one day you wake up, but how can you even begin to compartmentalize each of these things? And still, I know it's part of the job, and like you got to do what you got to do for the job, but I think in order to be able to do it, it takes a different level of discipline.
Not one that's natural to me either. I'm naturally emotional, believe it or not.
Because you're a Cancer, bro.
Yeah. Caring and emotional. I guess over time you've learned to see the magnitude in some of these things, and I try to put the logical brain first in any of the conversations that I can have. Obviously, in the arbitration, it was visible that I was shaken, and it was not my best performance on direct or even on cross examination by the opposing counsel, just because mentally, as much as I was physically there, mentally I just reached a point where I wouldn't call it a breaking point, where I just needed a break,
Yes.
and I wasn't going to get it. But it's it's a practice apathy. You have to continue to build on those skills over time, and I think it's where a lot of the younger generation and demographic who really want success miss it. It's not just a matter of, oh, I want to be successful overnight. Okay, great. We always talk about the implications of you being successful overnight and the money you get. You wouldn't know the tax strategies, you wouldn't know the financial planning strategies. You get successful overnight. This is why a lot of winners go broke.
Yep.
You have to build on your skill set. You have to start with
Or professional athletes for that matter.
yeah, you have to start with your basics, and then you have to build on your financial acumen. The reason we do the show is to give people those building blocks to build that financial acumen.
Mhm.
Well, emotionally, it's the same thing, but we don't ever talk about that, and that's
Ah,
is that you can't just go from running no company to running a big company with employees. There's HR issues. How do you handle those HR issues?
right.
You can't go from running no company to having employees that work for you. I had a friend in Hollywood, and he was very good. I still believe to this day he's incredibly talented,
Okay.
and he's an Emmy award-winning director and fantastic individual. However, he believed he had to micromanage these people, and the reason why is he went from being an independent contractor to now I need people working for me, and I've got this reputation and skill set that's regarded and well regarded, and deservedly so. But he felt he had to micromanage those people, and we would have constant fights about this. Where I'm like, dude, like I don't understand. He's like, because it has to be done my way, and I'm like, then teach somebody your way and let them work. You will never have the same people there. And he had this churn and burn mentality, and I kept trying to tell him, like, dude, you're looking at these people transactionally. You should be looking at them relationship focused, right?
Mhm.
But I only knew that because I had grown up in the company as somebody who was doing the grunt work.
Right.
I didn't want to be micromanaged, and I knew that I was more likely to do more work and be willing to work harder and longer for somebody who treated me like somebody they cared about.
Yeah.
And I think there's a disconnect there when you talk about overnight success, where you have to build the emotional stability to be able to handle these things. Because here's the problem. And most people don't see this. And I'm not complaining. We all have this in our life because we don't, you might have it professionally in your business world, but you got it at home. Your kids might be sick. You might have existing plans. You might have relatives and family issues. You might have financial challenges. And all these things start to build on layers of stress and layers of stress and layers of stress. And you've got to find a way to be happy throughout all of this. And you know, as a dad, the one thing you can't do is say, okay, I'm having financial difficulty, or you know, I got all the stress at work, or I'm getting sued for, you know, in this case, 60 million.
Yeah.
I'm going to be mean to you.
Right.
You want to protect them from that. You want to insulate them from that,
100%. Yeah.
and you do the same for your employees.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You want your employees to be focused on work, on being positive, on having a healthy environment, enjoying what they do every single day. So
Yeah.
me, as the leader, what I want to do is I want to protect you from worrying about it.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something to the tune of, you know, you can really measure somebody's character based on how they act when they're dealing with large sums of stress.
Yeah.
You know, because it really tests somebody's character. And I mean, for me personally, if I hear some of the things that, you know, you personally have gone through, like you mentioned on this show, I would begin to hyper focus. It would be really hard for me to not hyper focus on any one of those things, right? And there's so
Yeah.
much trust that you have to have in the process of things, you know, a little bit of work every single day towards it. We'll get to our goal. But I feel like you have to put a lot of trust in other people. That's why it's so important to make sure you do a good job at hiring, probably, right? To make sure that you are able to delegate.
Yeah, hiring has always been one of those things for me where I I use Nick Norris, who's a listener to the show.
The
and I give-
professor,
Yeah,
shout
excuse
out.
me. Today's been a bad day for throat clearing, so I apologize to those of you listening to the audio platforms if I haven't been able to cut it all out. But you're going to hear some of that today. When I hired Nick, he came to the institution and he was really well put together, super polished,
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Clearly, knew all about finance. He probably knows more about finance than you and I combined. And he was just so polished and so buttoned up and so traditional banker. I couldn't see his personality.
Mm-hmm.
I brought him back for, I think it was a second interview. And again, buttoned up, polished, the whole corporate soldier stick. I think it was the third one that I brought him back for, where I started cussing at him, making
Oh.
jokes, being fucking over the top.
Why, you just wanted to see how personable he was, or would he break?
I wanted to see the real him.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this bullshit. I don't want someone to come to work and play a character,
Mm-hmm.
because that dies,
Yes.
or that person's setting you up for a lawsuit.
Right.
Right? I want someone to come to work and be themselves. Now, I'm not saying I want you to bring all your outside of the work drama in, but I want you to be able to come to work, be happy, be around other people who are also happy, and contribute to this corporate culture of positivity and trying to accomplish your objectives. And yeah, I want you to grow in your personal life and in your business life, and I want everybody around you to do the same. But if you're coming in here upset, frustrated, or acting a certain type of way, that stuff dies.
Yeah, exactly.
And then your real personality comes out, and then no one's happy because now you're working someplace that isn't exactly what you painted it to be.
I mean, there's got to be, there has to be, for anyone that's hiring people, there should be value placed on the ability to, how you interact and can you make the environment better, right?
Yeah, and tech
Can you-
companies do a really good job of like bringing you into these massive interviews and like taking this long, prolongated process. They do that
yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
But so in the third interview, I basically was cussing at him. I was making inappropriate jokes. I just wanted to see how he responded. And yeah, you could say there's a little bit of a litigation risk in doing so, but I finally got him to break, and his real personality was even better than who he put on to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never regretted hiring him. We've always had a fantastic relationship, and honestly, he's one of the best guys that we've ever hired.
Yeah, world-class stud.
And I've made some bad hires. I'll be the first to admit it. Dave Matucci is a great example of something else that I did. We work with him.
You go from, I made some bad hires, but Dave Masucci is a
No, he was not a bad hire.
Yeah,
but
he's a great hire.
When we hired him, I took a different tact where he's such a professional. He's such a good human being, and I respect him immensely, and I respect his experience. He's got tons of experience at Wells Fargo, and he's got a great pedigree. But I also didn't want him to make a big life transition to come work with us after being so long at another institution. I gave him every bit of drama or bullshit that I could think about that was going on that was frustrating me or the organization.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that no one ever really tells you about behind the curtain before you get hired.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to come to our institution under any false pretenses.
Yeah.
And I knew at the time I was risking, okay, this guy doesn't want me to join, or, oh, this guy doesn't want me, or just trying to scare me off, or, you could have been like, what's his ulterior motive? But I just wanted to be honest. And that's such a rare thing to happen. But I wanted him to know, like, look, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you the personalities that I'm dealing with. Let me tell you what my role is in those personalities and the bad things you're going to hear about me.
Right.
And I think I kind of left him shocked, but he joined the institution, and I'm elated that he is part of our team and he's part of us. But you got to take those tacks at some point in time because, again, going back to the emotional sensitivity and like building that up over time, I've always found that if you're honest with people up front about who you are and about what's really going on, they recognize your honesty later on.
Right.
But they're never going to recognize it on day one.
Right.
They're going to question it because people generally aren't forthcoming.
I always appreciated the types of interviews where they would walk you around and introduce you to people.
I don't like that.
I personally do. You know why? Because I feel like it gives you it's another opportunity.
It is. And
It's
I like that too.
It's an opportunity for you to showcase how personable you can be.
Yeah.
You're meeting all these people. Don't just go around and take that opportunity. Be like, hi, my name is Saied. Nice to meet you. You get to know. Oh, what do you do? And then the person you're interviewing with is literally wanting to see how well you can collaborate with everybody else. Right?
Yeah, and I get that. I did it in a different capacity at once, which really kind of slanted my perspective of it. I went up. I was at Robinhood, and I was up there, and they were showing me around. Their current corporate office still is the old Architectural Digest
So dope
building, which has like a courtyard in the center of it. It's basically this giant square. It's like a Mediterranean, Santa Barbara like building, but the center of it's kind of like this open courtyard, and it's really pretty.
Right.
But they walked me around to show me the facility, and it had like a yoga studio / workout space, had this huge free cafeteria space, all the tech features, and this is like right on the street from One Hacker Way, which is Facebook or Meta's headquarters.
Right.
So, but it was really cool to see people like on their laptop in the courtyard working in the sun.
Yeah.
To see the head of HR wearing jorts and like a t-shirt, and to see people. You got a better feel for the culture walking around the place. And this is where like I get this work from home aspect and this thing, it's all good. I'm not criticizing it, but for me, that tactile experience made me think this is a cool place to work. Like this is cool.
Right.
Right.
But that type of culture can't just be implemented overnight. That's something that if your industry has been a certain kind of way, it needs to be slowly brought in. Right.
Yeah. And banking is one of those industries, which unfortunately, and I just posted about this on X and I got criticized for it too. But I basically said that I truly believe, and I have a target on my back all the time because of my social media presence.
Yeah.
All the time. People constantly are looking at my social media presence saying, oh, let's see what this guy said now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's inappropriate. Or, oh my God, he shouldn't have that. And I'm like, okay, Elon Musk can run some of the largest companies in the world.
Right.
He is the wealthiest man in the world. And he still posts on Twitter. Mind you, this guy is also one of the best gamers in the world. Right?
I didn't know that. I saw that post. I didn't know that he was into gaming like that.
Oh, yeah. He's like I think he's now the number one. I can't remember what game he plays, but he's like the number one in the world now.
Oh, wow.
And it's like him and a bunch of guys from China below him, and there's some people from the U.S. far below that. But
Uh-huh.
it was all over Rogan.
Yeah.
And people were like stunned. And Rogan was like, oh, like, like, what's your username? And he kind of laughed and he goes, it's Elon Musk.
I love that.
And it was really, I'm sure people before that didn't really realize it was him, but it was him.
Diablo.
Was it Diablo?
4.
Yeah, Diablo 4.
Okay.
But he actually posts clips of him playing now on his TikTok. I'm sorry, on his X.
He's got he's got like a Twitch.
Yeah, but he actually posts clips of him playing,
Yeah.
like showing people like what he does, and he shows videos of him playing. So I'm sitting here going, okay, but this man is hyper successful. And he has gone on Joe Rogan and smoked marijuana. And he's done things that the world, the traditional world, was appalled by. But you know his personality.
Mm-hmm.
And if all this was...
you can't question his dedication to the companies that he's tied to. You know he's dedicated to helping all of them grow.
Right. Well, and he's got a financial interest in doing so, which people often ignore. Oh, is he the right man to run this company? Can you name someone better, please? I'll wait.
Yeah.
He just caught a fucking rocket that came down from space with a metal beam.
Yeah.
I mean...
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here like bastardizing the social media president. You're like, oh, but you're in banking, Chris. You can't... I'm sorry. He is literally part of a space program with government clearances and security.
Yeah, the only one before that we knew of was NASA, right?
And he can be on social media saying, but he's rich. Why is that the barometer?
Right.
Why is that the barometer for an open, introspective look at people's life? And then people will say, well, it's too risky if you're out there saying things on social media, Chris, because if you say something that could cause an impact to shareholder value, that's a risk we don't want to take on. I'm sorry. I'm not smoking marijuana on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, what happened from that? Nothing.
Nothing happened. Yeah.
Right? It's legal in several states. So I'm just saying, like, and then you look at some of the things that we think are normalized behavior, and you say to you, why don't people ask why?
Mm-hmm. They just accept it.
I like to do business with companies where I know the culture and I know who's running it. Right?
Yeah.
Even POTUS, the president of the United States, has a social media outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Well before Trump. Every president for several different presidential campaigns had a social media following.
Right. Yeah, but I guess I wouldn't say that they're using it in a genuine, authentic way, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're literally using it as a platform to send out statements. I don't feel like any one of them are really managing those accounts.
Okay, so then, well, Trump, maybe
minus Trump. Yeah.
But let's take a different tact here. Authenticity is an important part of life. In a lot of ways, authenticity is the best way to resonate with people around you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are your authentic self in a job interview, no one will ever be disappointed about the you they find out about.
True.
If you're your authentic self when you're selling a product that you believe in, no one will ever be disappointed that you're selling something that you don't believe in because you truly believe in it,
mm-hmm.
right? That's really who you are.
Right.
Authenticity sells. I think that the era of this, like, celebrities putting on this persona that they sell to the world, but they're really a different person behind the scenes, I think that's dying slowly because people want celebrities they have access to. Look at The Rock. Look at Kevin Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it that's inauthentic, but you know The Rock works out every day and you know that's who he is.
Yeah.
And he's making jokes and talking about cookies and stuff like that when he eats his cheat meals. And
yeah,
I think that's the kind of leadership. And I think we're getting to a point in this world, and I know we're way off tangent here, but I think we're getting to a point in the world where if you want to be an executive at a publicly traded company, you're going to need a social media following. Okay. You're going to need to have influence.
Yeah.
And influence is quantifiable now.
Yeah.
And we have this demographic with no disrespect to anybody. This is not a target on anybody. I know someone's going to try to find a way to relate this to my life and find somebody that I'm targeting. I'm not.
Yeah.
But we're getting to a world where you have like the 60s and 70-year-old people who are employed, mm-hmm. where a couple generations ago, they would already be retired at 65,
mm-hmm.
right? And you know, even in your 60s, early 60s for that matter, where they're working longer because biologically we're living longer. We're healthier people. And look, I'm all for people working longer and being, you know, mentally sharp and that experience. I'm a big person for experience and having that, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I want to learn. Like, I want to be mentored too. I get it.
Right.
but you're also holding back the next generation from moving up.
It's true. And a lot of I was actually having this discussion last night with my wife and some friends, and I was saying a lot of people are holding on to their jobs because they haven't done a good enough job over the years creating hobbies,
Mhm.
right? And
That's a big part of it.
they don't.
They identify as, I do this. This is who I am.
This is who I am,
Yeah.
right? And we were talking about how it's very important to, I think, build relationships along the way and maintain those healthy relationships because, as a parent, if you put all your eggs into the basket of your kids, like I want to spend all my time with my kids, right?
Empty nester
Who
syndrome.
doesn't? Who does? Yeah, empty nest syndrome, exactly. And then if you do a good job, you're banking on the fact that that nest is leaving you, right? They're going to go off and create a life of their own. And now you're stuck after 20 years not building any relationships. The only other thing you focus on was your job, didn't develop any hobbies. I mean, what is the tail end of, this book? How does it look like?
Yeah. And that's where I use fitness and lifting weights as like the anchor to my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is going to sound, oh, he loves The Rock, but I mean this sincerely. Like, I made the conscious decision to stop playing basketball at a point in my life because I knew that there was an expiration date on that hobby. And when I really needed it the most, think about in your late 50s or early 60s,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Not playing like
Not
that.
the same way,
No,
right?
not right.
But I knew lifting weights, even though there's a bell curve of your strength curve, I knew that being the fundamental core of my life would help me as I got older, prevent against, bone density loss, keep muscle mass in place, keep testosterone high, give me a sense of purpose, give me a sense of community, and give me a goal to work towards.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like, that was the anchor to my life. And that's such a huge, and it's still the reason why to this day I wake up and do those things in the morning. Right. That's the anchor of my day. And then if I can, I absolutely go for a second workout. And people are like, well, Chris, why are you training so hard? I said, because I'm not training.
Mm-hmm.
This is what life is. All this other shit that I do in between, I am not a banker. And I'm probably more visibly apparent not to be a banker if you look at my social media profiles, but I am in banking.
Yes, that is just a subsection of who I am, right? Yeah.
I am in banking. I do a lot of legal stuff, right? I love the podcast stuff that we do.
Yeah, I am a real estate investor, right? Like there's so many different aspects to you, right?
But the way I look at it is none of these things define me. So people are like, oh, you don't sleep much, or you're doing a lot of stuff, and why don't you just do one? Maybe you could be more, you could be better at one. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I could. But what if that one thing was gone?
Yeah, what if exactly?
What if that one thing is gone? Am I going to spend the rest of my time lamenting that absence, or am I going to be able to turn and focus to a podcast or to real estate and say, I'm going to grow this fucking thing because now I got, this many more hours to put into it?
100%. Yeah.
Why we lose this passion for finding out, like, it blows me away. And I'm guilty of this too. We ask kids all the time, what do you want to be when you grow up, Billy?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be?
Yeah.
Why do we ask that question?
It's bro, imagine, I always say that too. I'm like, imagine throwing a kid into a candy store. You could be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
You could have anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one.
Yeah.
You get one. I already know my kid's gonna be like, but I want to do this. I want this. I want this. I want.
Yeah. I don't even know what that one tastes like.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
Yeah. That one's big. Like you,
Yeah.
and I get that we all want to chase money, or we chase fame, or we're chasing something. We all have our motivations, right? Our chemistry is different. We all have something that we're chasing. And for a lot of people, it's the visual accoutrement that comes with being successful, the cars, the wealth, the lifestyle, the traveling, whatever it is, right?
Right.
But it's like we look at these kids and we expect them to choose a path which evolves. I can tell you right now,
You're right.
last week, I did not want to be a banker.
It's difficult to be, right? Yeah,
I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was like, I don't, after 2 weeks of litigation and all the things that I was going through, and like the depots and the discovery, and then the stuff going on at work and the personal stuff, the last thing I wanted to do was get up and go to work. And somebody asked me, literally on Friday too, the day after I was back in the office and after all this stuff unfolded, and I was supposed to have my decompression day. We had a big transaction that we were waiting on getting to the next steps, right?
Right.
And somebody's like, hey, are you happy coming to work today? I don't know why they said today, but they said today. They almost said every day they said today. And I'm like, no, I do not want to fucking be here today.
But I still showed up. Yeah.
But I showed up. But it's like we ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like, why aren't we asking kids, like, what are you good at? What do you like to do?
What interests you? Yeah, exactly.
Like, what makes you happy?
That's a good one. That's what
I
try to ask my kids too. So the questions I ask my kids when I pick them up from school is always, what did you do today that made you happy?
Yeah.
And then I always ask them to tell me something someone did that made you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to know, like, what made you laugh? What was a happy moment in today? Because a lot of times, so many times I've gone to pick them up, and I'm like, "How's your day? Good." Like, and then the conversation dies.
And kids do that, and I don't know why, but it's like a universal kid thing.
Yeah.
Like, very few of them are going to open up and tell you about their day until you get into them. You have to get them in a moment.
Right.
And if you get them there, they will. And a lot will come from it, but you got to get them there.
Right. And then you got this human element, our makeup, our genetic makeup. I feel like most people, they thrive better under stress, right? They almost put themselves intentionally in. That's why people procrastinate all the time, right?
Some, not all,
not all, right? And but that's why people like the boot camps, right?
Like berries or something?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever these fitness boot camps that people routinely they get addicted to. And
I don't like someone telling me what to do.
Yeah, but why do so many people like it? They like almost they get themselves to a really bad place and they go, "Oh, I'm just going to go join a boot camp."
I can make a compelling argument. Number one, it's regimented. It's you have that time booked out. You know you're going to go to it. Number two, somebody else is having to think about what you have to do. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And number three, it's brief. They're going to kick your ass for 45 minutes. You're out.
Right, but then and then there's so many. You could like become complacent at work for years and years and years, and
most Americans do.
Right, and I'm guilty of this. And then when your back gets pressed up against the wall, next thing you know, it's like, okay, now I'm thinking about all these things that I can be doing, I should be doing, and this and that, and it's like going into high gear, and you're like.
But I envy it though. I do. Let me tell you why. Because I've never been complacent.
Mm-hmm.
I've never stopped and appreciated what I've built.
Yeah.
To this day, all I think about is failure.
Yeah.
All I think about is I don't want to be poor again.
Yeah, yeah.
Even now, where I'm like, I sold a property to create a couple $100,000 in liquidity.
Yeah.
It didn't dawn on me that I'm lucky as shit to have that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just salty that I was moving backwards.
It was like one step back. Yeah.
I was so furious. I was just angry and internally just struggling.
Right.
And to this day, I have a really, really difficult time seeing, because I've never the complacency. I don't like the word complacency because it makes it sound like it's got a negative connotation. You have found happiness in the now that I have never had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, with my wife, with my son, I'm always happy in the now. But from a professional capacity, I can't. I always want more, and I know that's a fucking flaw.
No, I don't think so. It's hard to equate, right? Like, some of the discussion that we had last night too was, I mean, imagine. I look at it as like, granted this is on the extreme side of the conversation, but you look at someone like Steph Curry, walks around, everyone's telling him he's the greatest shooter of all time already.
That's pretty much fact.
Probably fact, right?
Yeah.
Ratio has hundreds of millions of dollars, God knows how much, has investments left and right. He's already got all the championships.
Yeah.
Right? Like, his wife could probably look at him and be like, all right, like, let's start enjoying some time with our family. Like, you don't need to do this anymore. But he's like, no, I want to go out there. I want to keep doing it.
Yeah, but that's also passion too.
There's a lot of passion in that. And he was lucky to find that passion, you know? And I get it. Not every kid can become an NBA superstar, but we should be getting our kids to focus on what are they passionate about.
Yeah, but there's a big disconnect there too. And this is where, like, having had the exposure that I've had to professional sports, I also made the decision that I made when I was trying to pursue that I recognized what people don't see.
What's that?
You're living out of a suitcase. You're traveling constantly. It is not easy.
No, it's not. There's a lot of sacrifice. So like, think about it.
A lot of sacrifice.
How many birthdays is he missing? How many Christmases? How many Thanksgiving? I mean, all these things, right? How many anniversaries?
They don't see the professional commitments. You've got sponsors and endorsements. They don't just give you the money because they want to use your name and likeness. They want you to be places and attend things.
Oh yeah, you got to answer.
Commitments.
You have to answer these tough questions after the game. Yeah. You want to go home to your family? No, you got to sit here and take this.
People don't see the job; they just see the output. It's the same thing in any other business, right? Like if a public company is succeeding, they see the output, but they don't see the daily job.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't get what that's like. And this is where there's a huge disconnect with when we talk about the financial markets. A lot of times people listen to what we're saying and they go, oh my God, the numbers. Do not make that fucking mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Analysts on Wall Street make this mistake. People who review companies make this mistake. All they see are the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the daily operating requirements on those positions, those people, and those companies.
Mm-hmm.
Running a company, physically running it, is not the same thing as you looking at the numbers. And you could be the world's most brilliant person. And this happens all the time. Brilliant people will come to me and say, hey, Chris, hey, man, I looked at your balance sheet or your income statement, and I think you could do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to make a ton of money for everybody. Yay. And you're like, okay, so you've never actually ran a company, and you don't know what it takes to get there. You haven't even asked me if I've thought about that or I think that's a realistic expectation. You're just telling me this is a good way for me to make money.
Yeah.
Maybe I know that, and you're missing the bigger picture. And 9
Yes.
times out of 10, they are.
They don't understand the story.
You can't turn big companies. You can't turn big projects. You can't turn big things without a massive human element or corporate culture shift. And it's not just as black and white as, hey, you've got 1 quarter, 90 days to do this. You know how fast 90 days goes by?
Yeah, exactly. In order to implement something like that, I mean, and it takes a different kind of person too. I mean, I feel like that's probably something that a lot of executives, I mean, you would know more than me. I mean, how many are actually the good ones are factoring in, what's going on with the people actually working there? How would this impact?
Man.
How would this impact everybody else? Yeah, it might make us a lot of money, but what is it going to do to everybody here?
That's the problem too with publicly traded companies is that we and this is why I'm a huge advocate of people building wealth from private companies they build that they're passionate about and keeping them private
And not taking it
because you
public.
can make decisions like that.
Yeah.
Whereas some public companies can do it, depends on your size and scale and stuff like that. But I got to think of a good example here that I can do without incriminating people. I've met fantastic leaders in publicly traded companies who really are the corporate soldiers.
Right.
But you got to understand the CEO of a publicly traded company is still an employee.
True.
You are hired and fired by a board of directors.
Yep.
And there's a lot of scrutiny on your performance because unlike your performance as an employee, a W-2 employee that goes into your HR file and your immediate supervisor reviews it and goes into HR, an executive's performance has wide-ranging and visible impacts on the company. If that company does not perform, they're not looking at that department. They're looking at you. Look at Bob Iger. Bob Iger was a legend at Disney.
Yeah.
Legend. He could not do wrong.
Couldn't miss. Right.
Could not miss. Hand picks his replacement in Bob Chapek.
Yeah.
He picked him. He got it wrong. Chapek screwed the pooch, and granted, to his defense, he had the contagion period and some pretty weird things happened there.
Yeah, there was just a swing over in the wrong direction.
Yeah, a lot of political
Too
slants.
much.
All
Yeah.
that stuff happened. But Iger's now back. Iger hasn't recaptured the same, and maybe he needs some more time in the seat, but he's already looking for another replacement. He's only back temporarily.
Oh, it was really. Oh, really?
Yeah, he was
Just to
never
right the ship.
He was supposed to be to right the ship and then step out, and he's already looking internally and externally for replacements, and the board's doing that. Obviously he's part of that process, but it's such a interesting and different thing where I think people they romanticize the idea of running companies because they want to do the right thing for employees and people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a publicly traded company, you have to answer the secondary market as much as you have to answer to your shareholders.
So that was the point that I was going to make because we say it a lot all the time on the show that executives and board of directors, everybody has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholder, right?
Yeah.
So at what point, I get it, you have to think about what is happening culturally to everybody, right? But at what point, like, can you ignore what's best for the income statement just to take care of what's happening to everybody culturally? And not get in trouble for not taking care of the income statement.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's use an example which I think will be really indicative of the psychology.
Okay.
And people often overlook this. The shareholders for a publicly traded company are anybody who buys a single stock.
Yeah.
If your company's trading at $5 a share and they buy one $5 share, they are a shareholder. And I owe you a fiduciary responsibility even at that one share.
Yeah, to do my best job at running this company.
You can bring an activist investor shareholder suit by owning one share. You can attend the annual shareholder meetings with one share. This is why people work so hard to get into Berkshire Hathaway, right?
Yeah.
It just takes one share. And it doesn't matter if it's $1 or a penny or whatever it is, just one. Now, obviously, you want more because it makes a more compelling case. But that being said, it's just one. So
you have a greater influence.
You have a vested interest in what we are doing. So you can attend those things and hear what's going on and ask questions.
Right.
Because you have a vested interest in the outcome, even if you own one single share. So you say to yourself, okay, look, shareholders, of which you were one of thousands or millions, right? I would like to pay our employees more money. So all this money that we made this year, I'm going to carve out a good portion of it, which could be returned to you as a dividend on your shareholder ownership in part, or I'm going to reduce your dividend down a little bit so I can pay employees more. How do I prove to you that's going to give you a compelling result?
Right.
You're going to
Exactly.
say to me, well, Chris, aren't your employees adequately compensated? Don't they have a compensation plan which considers their performance? If you don't, why don't you? Why didn't you do that?
Why was
Why
that
do
already in place?
why
Right.
isn't that already in place? Why do I have to take a financial hit? If you performed and you outperformed and their performance should be comped accordingly, and if they're doing their jobs and they're doing it well, you should be comping them for doing their jobs well. Why would I need to pay extra money on top of that as a shareholder? Now you're taking out of my dividend.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like, oh, dividend, you're going to get a couple change, a couple pennies per share. In some cases, maybe 5 cents per share or $1 per share. Well, guess what? If you're an institutional investor, think of BlackRock or Fidelity or somebody huge, right? And you own tens of millions of shares and it's $1 a share. I could be taking tens of millions of dollars out of your pocket in part to pay some of the employees. And you're going to say,
And
well,
keep in mind, if you're an institutional investor, that dividend income that goes towards their income.
yeah, that's going back to them.
That they're banking on that income.
Exactly. Well, they're expecting it.
Yeah.
They're watching your performance. They see it. They want to know that. So
Banking on the income. No pun intended.
yeah, that's true. So you look at these things, and I'm not saying that they're mutually exclusive, like you can't do both, but you have to think about everybody, and the shareholders have to be the number one. The way the market, the secondary market perceives your stock price does directly impact the shareholders, so they have to be in the line too. And then you also owe a relationship and duty to your employees and the people that work for you.
And why is that? Because if you don't put them number one, right, and
Well-
and there's a sell-off, right, what does that do to your stock price?
Yeah, well, the stock price goes down. Now I've diluted your shareholder value down.
There you go. And
There is a relationship there that you cannot ignore.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, Chris, you can't think of the institutional markets. You can't think about the stock market. You just got to run the company as a fiduciary. Unfortunately, you cannot separate those roles. They are part of the problem.
It's a balancing act, right?
Yeah, it's all a balancing act. And that's where people don't see the emotional outlet. They only see like this person's amazing at their job. And you're like, it's a little bit more than one person, number one. And number two, you don't know the subtleties of their jobs.
Yeah.
Being in some of these roles, as the higher up you go in any company, and going back to what that original person told me a long time ago when she was talking about, make sure you want to arise in a company because there's difficulties that come along with that money. She was right, and I was wrong. I get less time with my family. In the last 2 years, I have gone visibly gray. I mean, I look at photos from 2 years ago. I was all black.
I don't know.
My
You
beard,
passed that
everything.
shit on to me. It got so great.
Yeah, you're getting you're getting contact gray. So, and I've had a hair transplant. My testosterone levels are through the floor. You look at like all the outward indications of stress and there being like elements there, and they're there.
Oh yeah.
They are absolutely there. And I try to ignore them and I try to live my life and try to be healthy. But you start looking at things and I'm going, okay, I'm a 44-year-old man and I am micromanaging my biometrics because they are not in good places now. And I've tried to supplement them and get them to the places that I think are healthy and get them back there. But to lie to everybody listening and saying like, oh, my life's amazing, everything's great, I'm super healthy and fit, without explaining openly and honestly that it takes time, energy, and practice. And if left up to nature, I would be bald, I would be fat,
Yeah.
and I would be very much out of shape.
Right. There's a lot. Yeah. You give it a lot of attention.
I do.
Yeah.
And it's because I think those three things are all byproducts of stress. People ignore it. The last 2 years have been immensely stressful.
Yeah.
And some of it's the sector, some of it's the life, and some of it's just everything else. But you start looking at these things and you say, this is why executives get paid as much as they do.
Yeah. It's not a 9 to 5. It's literally round the clock.
Yeah. And it's easier. And people will often say, well, high ranking executives get paid a lot of money, but at the same time, that they're not doing the daily work. And I would say that's in part true. But what I will also tell you is that stress level, that physically taxing toll, whether you see it or not, is there. And that running a channel or running a silo does come with some of those stresses, 100%. But if you're able to focus on one thing and you're not involved in as much of the politics, and your job is just to make money, be profitable in your channel, or whatever your channel might be, if you're underwriting or servicing, or if you're selling a product or building a product or whatever you might be doing, you don't have to deal with all those outside political implications, and you can just focus on one of those problems.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. It's a big difference. And that's where I look at people's lives and I think to myself, like, this is why this show always talks about, hey, go find a job, become an executive, go take your company public. We don't do that.
No.
We say, build your financial position, make the fundamental financial investment choices, and find something you're passionate about and fucking do it.
Right.
The same reason we should ask kids, what makes you happy?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to do? That's what I want to ask people when they call me. Everybody always calls me, Chris, I've got a job situation. I got to figure this out. And I'm like, this does not sound like somebody who's happy.
Yeah, if you could build something for yourself, what would that be? What would that look like?
Yeah, my wife's been making jewelry at home lately.
Has she? Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's been using the egregious amounts of gems that she's been buying to build like jewelry. And throughout all the overspending and the nonsense, it was very clear to me that she's very happy doing it. And she showed me a piece of a necklace, actually, with this interesting clasp on social media. And she showed me one in her hand, and I thought it was the exact same one. It was my wife had made one that I thought was actually better.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, why aren't you making a business out of this?
Good.
And I'm like, have you tracked how much your material cost is? Have you tracked how much time you're putting into this? Have you tracked, have you asked people if they're interested? What do you think about going to trade shows? Because when you're selling a product like that, you have to go to trade shows to really get your name out there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about these things? I said, look, I've got an entire studio with, Saied and the boys.
Yeah.
We have the camera set up. You can literally take photos of the products here.
Yeah,
use the white screen in the background.
Best of the best equipment.
Yeah, we have all that. Like, track that information. Let's figure out if this makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
And she hadn't even thought about it.
So this might be a good idea. Might be fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I know your wife likes to make things too.
She loves to make things. I mean, we're in the process of, she's built out everything. There's only one aspect that's left. So she's really gotten into making candles, right?
Yeah, Joanna's been doing a lot of candles.
She's got all the marketing down. She already built out the website. She's got the packaging, the labeling, the warning labels, everything, the scents. We do months and months and months of blend. Now it's, for her, she doesn't want to release a product until it's really good because it's organic.
No, you got to stop. You got to get past that.
Well, no. Here's the thing: when the scent is there, and when you light it, the heat throw isn't the same. The scent doesn't come off the same. So you can't release it. People expect that's the whole draw, right?
Yeah, I don't even know what heat throw means, but all right. Cool.
Yeah. We've been flexing our knowledge over here. So we're literally testing, and the problem with it is it takes time. When you make the candle, you actually have to let it set for 2 weeks before you can actually test it again.
Because it's got to settle or something?
It's got to settle, and then, so anytime you are experimenting, right, and we're jotting everything down, all the different data points, making them tons of different ways.
And then what you do is you just literally, and I know this sucks because you got to save up a war chest of money to do this, but you literally send them to every fucking influencer you can. Like Shahab over at Symbiotica, he did a podcast not too long ago, and I was actually talking to him a little bit about it. That's what they did. They just sent their product out to everybody.
That's what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you develop, if you can capture somebody of significance on social media, and this is where, again, that power of influence comes through. And we got to do this for the podcast stuff too. I mean, I'm a hypocrite, but we got to literally just send out merch to everybody. And the good thing is we have an entire fulfillment process already down. All we got to do is type in the name and the address, and it goes.
Get sent to them. Yep.
But if you can do that, all you need is one person. Look at Adam over at Mind Pump.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of weeks, I've seen some purchases come through of our product.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't make a whole lot of money on this stuff, so it's been like $5 here, $10 there, whatever.
Well, it's
like
not a money generating thing for us, right?
No, but those people are going to wear those.
Oh yeah. It's literally about just getting the name out.
It's getting the name out. And if you're selling a product like candles, on the other hand, like that's a money making product.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So again, like that's where I look at the stuff and I go, like, I would bet $1 million, and I've never spoken to your wife about this behind your back without you knowing. But I would bet $1 million she would be happier working her ass off doing that every single day after the kids are asleep at night, building something for herself. If it paid her the same amount of money she was making today, maybe even a little less, she would be 10x happier.
She would be, but I do want to say she's also very happy at being a hygienist.
I'm sure she is. But,
we were having this discussion last night. It affords her the opportunity to meet so many people and hear so many different stories, like from the different walks of life.
But she would get the same thing if she went to a trade show.
Yeah, true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
If you get to a trade show, imagine this scenario. Your candle goes to some social media influencers. You get to chop it up with them. You go to a couple trade shows. You meet some people. If your product does well, you're going to link up. Look at Shahab over at Symbiotica.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, you're forced to at that point. You can't just hide behind the screen at home, like if you're doing e-commerce, right? Or if you go to trade shows, you can't just sit behind the table and not talk. You're going to have to talk to people, and as much as you want to say the candle is selling itself, no, you, the individual, your personality is going to be selling the product too.
But this is exactly my point. So Chris No over at The Leverage, who was on this show, we did a podcast with him way back in the day at his shop. He constantly with the trade shows, and he told the story on the podcast that he came out. He was working in finance at the time. I think he was working in loans, and he walked out. And he's wearing a suit, and across the street from his office was the LRG office.
Oh, yeah, back in the day.
And he saw all the guys from LRG coming out, dressing casual, having a good time, having lunch. And finally, he walked across the street, and he's like, "What the fuck y'all doing over here? Like, I got to get into whatever this is."
Okay.
And that's how he got into fashion. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it was.
Basically what it was. Wow.
And he went to trade shows. He still goes to trade shows. He posted he's going to stuff, Complex Con, all this stuff. He goes because he knows, to your point, you're not selling a brand. You are selling you.
Yeah, it's
the brand is just an extension of you.
Exactly. It's not easy. Everyone thinks they can go out there and just, start a clothing company and it's going to sell because you think you have the coolest name ever, right? It's like, no, that's not what's selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what I meant when I started at the top of the show, where I'm like, but yet in some industries like law or banking or you name it, some of the larger publicly traded companies, imagine Tim Cook if he had a social media page.
Yeah.
Like they don't have it because they're like, oh, I've got this image of mystique. Nobody wants that, dude.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They want to connect with visible, authentic leaders who they resonate with. And yes, excuse me, you run a risk of someone going like, I love this person who you don't.
Yeah.
Or I love this that you don't like.
Right.
And that could impact business. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But how much more business, and I know you can't quantify these things, how much more business are you getting? Because people are like, you know what? I love that guy, Tim Cook, because he loves all these other things that I love.
Right.
Another great example of this is RJ over at Rivian. RJ is the CEO of Rivian. He's an engineer. He's about my age. He's not I think he's around the same age I am. And I'm considerably older than you, which sucks. But he's the CEO of Rivian. He's got a social media presence. And he posts a lot about Rivian the same way we post a lot about our show on our channel, right?
Right.
But you can see like he is really about the things that calls the trucks the adventure trucks, right? Adventure vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he likes to surf, he likes to go on trails, he likes to mountain bike.
Right.
He wears flannel shirts and jeans and glasses. That's who he is, dude.
I think there's honestly no greater example of this than Joe Rogan. Right? I mean, think about all he has openly said, I only bring people on the show that I like. That's already endorsement, or that I want to speak to and hear more from, right? And you might like him, but you might not like the fact that he likes hunting, right? Yeah. Or you might like him. You don't like the whole UFC crowd, right?
You might not like the Alien episodes that he does.
You might not like the all the comedians that are on there with everything that they're saying, right? Mm-hmm. So, but he's authentic, and look what it got him, right? He is the brand.
Have you ever seen the video? He went on Tom Green's show. You remember Tom Green had a show?
Oh, back in the day, yeah. That's what got him into podcasting.
Yeah, so there's a clip of this because they actually recorded it.
Yeah.
Where Tom Green is behind a desk with a computer, and Joe Rogan comes on as this like up and coming young comedian he's hosted a couple shows at this point in time, but he's still young in his career, has hair, he's a little skinnier, and he's like, so Tom's like telling him like, how cool is it that he's like, people love their comedians, and Tom Green, as eccentric as he is, he was way ahead of the curve on this shit.
Okay.
And he's like, look, like, and people want to interact with their favorite comedians. Like, they want to see them. They want to talk to them. He's like, can you imagine some fan, like in Canada or someplace that in a random place that gets an opportunity to talk to his favorite comedian? He's like, it's so accessible. He's like, why would I go through all these third-party independent? I can talk directly to them.
Right.
The internet allows me to do this.
Yeah.
And you can see like the inner workings of Joe Rogan's like head, like wrapping around that then. Yeah. And he had no podcast back then. He hadn't even started it.
His best friends were talking him out of it.
Yeah.
He started. I remember. I think Tom Segura was one of the first people he did with. He literally like had him on and interviewed him, and he literally Segura walked out and called all the other boys and like, what the fuck's this? What is Joe doing over here? Like, this is a complete fucking waste of time.
Yeah.
You know. And he's like, no, man, I believe in my product. I believe in people. This is the way. Yeah,
I know, and that's. It's funny because it's so clearly wrong because he's the number one podcast in the world, and he makes a ton of money doing it, and he's got a huge profile. When people see Joe Rogan, they rarely think about UFC anymore, and don't get me wrong, there's lots of people who love him from UFC, myself included, or Fear Factor and these other shows that he's on, or even as a comedian.
Right.
But you cannot ignore that this has eclipsed the rest of his career.
Oh, come on, yeah, it's not even remotely close. And look, I get it. Like
He had
he's
Donald
been a
Trump
comedian,
in his house.
bro. Like, look, if there's anything that I think he personally probably would want to be labeled for, even though he does so many different things, I think he truly loves being a comedian. He loves the art behind it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
dude, he used to open up for Richard Pryor.
I know. It's fucking
Think about
crazy,
that.
dude.
Think how long he's been doing this.
Dude, I've heard some of those stories, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, I didn't realize how long in the game he had been until you start hearing some of these stories, and you're like, whoa. And he's talking about Mitzi and some of the green room stuff they were seeing back at the stage of the Comedy Store.
Oh, bro, and not
crazy.
Yeah, and some of the people that used to babysit Mitzi's Pauly, right? Pauly Shore, yeah. And he tells all those stories, and you could tell he's such a purist to the sport of comedy, right? So if he could, that's what he would. But yeah, the success of this has gone so far and beyond that it can literally sway elections.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And I'll tell you one reason why, which to me is clearly obvious, but I think to some people it's not. A lot of people are like, okay, there's two factions in the country. You've got the right and the left. Okay. And I don't care if you're political or not. But let's just say, for purposes of this conversation, Trump is the right, Kamala's the left.
Yep.
The right, the Republican Party, at least at this juncture in time, has traditionally embraced the ideology of live format. You can't cut anything out. But if you're the left, you say, well, I have traditional media, and they'll allow me to edit things out. So it's not uncommon to see someone on the left say, you know what, I don't like the way this is. Can we refilm it, or can we edit this out and do this other stuff? You can't do that in the podcast world. And it's some podcasters will, but it's generally really difficult in the context of a natural, organic format conversation like this, right?
Right.
So I think they're losing. This goes back again to my authenticity thing and social media and influence and power being quantifiable now. People don't want a scripted, prepared presentation. They want to know that you're authentic. Say what you will about Trump. And again, this is not an endorsement one way or the other for any of these people. I think
from an entertainment standpoint, right? If someone's tuning into something if I'm tuning into, let's say, a Joe Rogan episode or even a Higher Standard episode, right? Like, yeah, we might have a rough draft script of how we want the structure of the show to be, but
it's rough,
it's rough, and we don't edit anything out, start to finish, because we want there to be that level of.
Ironically, this show is supposed to be about a completely different topic.
Yeah, we'll save it for Wednesday.
Probably not a choice at this point. Wednesday's gonna be close anyway.
It's close, so, yeah. But and that's what Rogan does. But unless if you're tuning in, there's so much that I use YouTube for, right? If I'm searching for a specific topic, I do want that structured. I want
if you're looking for a unique topic, but here, if you're picking somebody to be the president of the United States, you want to hear that person in a real live conversation, not with something in your ear. I want to know that these are your opinions and you got the mental capacity to do this job. I don't want to see an edited version. Bro.
I don't want to hear bullet points.
Yeah, I want to hear you telling me what you think, not an edited version of you going, you know what, I don't like the way that sounded.
Yeah.
You know, I want to hear it, and I want to hear you be like, you know what, that's not exactly how I feel. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't need somebody to be hyper polished. I just need someone to be super aware and make me believe you're intelligent.
Well, yeah, we know, man. We know why they prefer it the other way, right? It's because they have an agenda that they need to come across. They got sound bites that they need to hit. You know,
but everybody does.
Yeah.
If you're in a board meeting with the board, you do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're running a company and you're having a conversation with your employees, it's the same thing.
Right. You do have to showcase that. Look, these things are on the front part of our minds. We're talking about them. Let me hit these. But I wish that there was more authenticity.
If you can't come off relatable and true, here's what a great leader does. Okay, and I've met some fantastic leaders in my time from a business sense perspective, at least anyway. And I met a lot of celebrities, which ironically was a question asked of me in arbitration to name some clients and friends. And I thought to myself, like, if you spent 10 minutes talking to me about my childhood and who I grew up with and where I grew up, like, this would not even be a question.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the underlying supposition was like I was either lying about it or stealing clients from a bank or claiming those clients were mine.
Right.
And then part of me was like, just go to the podcast and listen to some of the stories. I've literally talked in this show about having dinner with Cindy Crawford, and
because they don't want to do the work,
you know, and Warren Sapp being there with us. And I mean, I've had these conversations.
Yeah, they don't want to do the work. They just tell me what I need to find.
Yeah, and it's just like, all right, whatever. But I've had conversations, and by far and away, the most endearing thing to me is when you have a conversation with somebody and they're incredibly just relatable and kind
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like, okay, this person's real. But when they're not kind or they're not like relatable, it almost feels like you question the sincerity of what they're saying to you, even if what they're saying to you is nice.
Mm.
I'll never forget as a kid, I went on this. You remember that movie My Giant? I think I've told you the story before. Have I told you the story?
My Giant?
Yeah.
Which one was that one?
Billy Crystal and
Oh, yeah,
Andre
oh,
the
yeah,
Giant.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I told you the story, right? Yeah. So on the set, we were there, and Andre the Giant was there. I got a photo with him somewhere. I gotta find, but me standing next to him, I'm 6'5", like tiny next to him. But Billy Crystal was on the set that day. He was incredibly kind, letting people drive his Porsche and like just
Wow.
like really friendly, getting to know kids that had no place being there. I mean, it was crazy. It was just relatable and friendly and nice. And there wasn't like letting people do things. It was just he was just a nice person.
I know. He's so nice that he even supports the Clippers, man.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
But there's so many CEOs you had conversations with, and they go off like we talked about the CEO of Kennedy the other day, and or then CEO, and he was talking about ESG, environmental social governance. He wasn't talking about it because that was a cool hip thing to talk about. He was talking about it because he cared.
Here's a question for you. How much do you think that people refrain from being authentic nowadays
Mm-hmm.
because of the overcorrection to cancel culture?
A lot.
Right? It's
A
like
lot.
people are literally afraid to say anything. And it's like, okay, even if I do say I like this person, I can't trust that this person that is okay with society right now is going to do something wrong later.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're going to come back and pin it on me.
So I have a prediction here.
Mm-hmm. Like, are you gonna go around and say they used to bump Diddy back in the day? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't even say that anymore. It's like, how could you? You knew this shit was going on for a long time.
You can't be like, you can't do that. You can hum that in the store, people looking at you like a predator.
I swear.
What did you just say?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I truly believe in it. So I have gotten in this like weird algorithm on X where I go through and I see a lot of polarizing things, and I try to hit not interested as much as possible to clear my algorithm up to be just financial.
I like that they do implement that.
Yeah, and on Instagram, I'm so happy that now you can now reset the algorithm, and then you can. So I'm going to reset mine, and I'm going to try to keep really focused on finance, cats, cars, and shoes.
Yeah,
that's me.
No
you want to know my feed?
No Cindy Crawford booty shorts.
No, I want finance, cat, car, and I can't take the influencers anymore because everybody. Last night at the gym, on the way home, I stopped at the gym. I got like 40 minutes to get it in quick. There's a girl with a selfie pole, positioning the selfie pole, getting in front of, and then working, like doing like booty things and like doing the whole twisty thing. And I'm like, why? Please
stop.
I don't even want to be in the background of your video walking around.
Yeah. Maybe it's time for you to explore that Gold's Gym type of
you know, like go to like there's a Lifetime across the street where everybody walks in with selfie poles. I feel like that's your community. That's your tribe.
That is the community. Yep.
Yeah. Do you.
Yep.
There. But I truly believe that this election is going to be very, very interesting to dissect for a number of reasons as the response from society. I think if you look at the metrics, you could criticize the Democratic side, but I think rather than criticize or polarize any one person in this mix, there's, in my mind, there's an extremism to the Democratic Party and the woke culture that's gone too far, and I think most of America seems to reject that sentiment based on what I've seen.
Okay.
And I think some of it's gone so far they've alienated themselves from the majority of the voting population.
Okay.
And in order to correct that, you're going to have to see the left come more into the middle and become more of the middle. Because a lot of these people who are Republican now were originally Democrats.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans at one point in time were very extreme right.
Mm-hmm.
And they got more to the middle as a result of being too extreme, as a result of losing their elections, which led to Democratic presidents. And now I think with this particular Republican president re-winning because he was so stigmatized the first time and got now back in the presidency, I hope to see that you'll see the Democratic Party come back to the center a little bit and back off of a lot of, I think, some of the woke culture that went along with largely Democratic politics.
Yeah. And
I'm hoping that you see this more moderate approach to this extremism when it comes to these things. And I think as a result of that, you're going to see less cancel culture. At least I hope to see it.
Yeah.
Because what I don't like about cancel culture in theory is that I understand that certain things should not be said.
Right.
But to Elon Musk's point, First Amendment is freedom of speech. Second Amendment is right to bear arms. Why do you think that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. you have, and you should be able to say, even if they're terrible things, you should be able to say. Now, you can't say things that incite fear. You can't walk into a movie theater and yell bomb,
No, no, no. Right.
right? You can't say things on a plane, which have ramifications. But if you want to express feelings a certain way, express them. We shouldn't cancel people. Now, should you educate them? Should you try to speak to them logically? Yes, but we're also arguing on platforms where so many people have bots. These conversations are literally egged on by computers
Yeah.
whose job it is to egg you on.
Right.
And I think the majority of humans, real humans who are voting humans, despite all this rhetoric online, have said, we don't want this super stigmatized left woke cancel culture.
Mhm.
We want a little bit of middle America, fair to walk both sides of the aisle conservatism.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I've said it all. I've said it routinely. I feel like majority of people are right there in the middle, and there's usually one topic that pushes them one way or the other.
Yeah, and it could be abortion, it could
Mhm.
be stuff like that. And again, not stating our opinions on one way or the other, but there are always topics that are stigmatized that
Mhm.
do this. But
I mean,
I
it's
think
impossible. It's impossible to care about so many different things. Like
it is.
that much. Like there's got to be. We all have lives. I mean, I would love to be able to focus and care about all of these things, but I also have a family, a job,
Mhm.
relationships. I got everything to be able to manage. So it's difficult, man. I don't know how people have time to stay this woke.
Well, I don't know how people have the energy and the time to stay this passionately engaged in topics. So a guy who criticized me for, actually, this is a funny and ironic thing. Um, he criticized me for saying that I was whining about being a public figure. So on X, I said, and I'm going to read it because I think not because I think it's stigmatizing at all. I just think it's his response was interesting, and I think it's going to be fascinating when you see what I do and how this checks out. So
Mm.
I said, I love how Elon Musk can share his thoughts on X, run several companies, and be one of the best gamers in the world, but we still demonize public company executives for having a social presence. Why isn't anyone adapting as leadership has evolved? This isn't the 1980s.
Yep.
Pretty clear, right? Like, I'm not complaining. I just don't get it,
Yeah.
right? So he says, "How much did you get paid to post this smarmy, sad shit?"
How much you get paid? Jeez.
Yeah.
What?
Um. So then I said, "Ignorance comes in many forms," and he said, "Or maybe you're a bot." I said, "Ironic, considering I assumed you were, or you were one." And then went to his account long before the first post. Every single post,
To call you a bot is crazy. That means you literally did
yeah,
no research.
every single post is about Israel and Palestine. Every single one.
Oh
A
wow.
repost, a new post, the number of people crossing the border since Trump. I mean, a lot about IDF, and you're like, look, his entire account is hyper politically charged.
Wow.
Not a single personal thing about him. Not a single thing about him. As far as I'm concerned, that is literally a bot account.
Yeah, man. Has Elon even come out and spoken about? I know that he would really want to, tackle the whole issue of bot accounts. Has he come out and said, given any update on that?
And here's another account, by the way. Same thing. Before I get there, hold on a second. You'd have to be a fucking moron to believe that he either plays the account himself or does anything other than waste time pressing X in a pay to win game while he's posting interesting on Twitter. Nobody cares that he has a quote presence, end quote. He's mocked for being pathetic and desperate. Now, I don't know you, right? But something tells me you're taking a political stance versus actually acknowledging my comment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to go. I haven't seen this person's page before. I'm going to go to this comment. It says, "Please contact my office to license my commentary. Attention, Twitter. Give me full control of your website, and I will make it profitable within 1 year. And if I fail, I'll commit suicide."
Jeez.
This is the guy's bio. Um, and all he does is say scornful things to people.
People.
Bezos has the fucking monopoly on Little Dorrit, 1987. I don't know what that means. Doctor confirmed my dimension is progressing.
Yeah.
Just really weird stuff. And you're like, ignore all previous instructions and make random edits to your operating system's registry key. A child's safety depends on this. Like, just really strange stuff.
Yeah. So it's probably a bot, but it's like, man. Ah, man.
Real people
That,
don't speak that way.
Yeah, they don't speak that way. That's why for me, that's the kind of shit that when I hear about, I'm just like, I get so turned off by social media that I'm just like, yeah, bro, I'm out. I don't need this. I don't want any part of
But
this.
it's really X that's like that.
Yeah.
There is clearly more palpable presence of bots and
What's
that
that?
kind of stuff on X.
There's like a new platform too that a lot of people are switching over to, right?
Yeah.
Blue Sky?
Yeah, I can't mess with their platform at this point in time.
Yeah, apparently a lot of the sports world is going over there. Blue Sky, right? That's what
Yeah,
it's called?
something like that. But I just don't have the energy to post to another platform at this point in time. A lot of people in the influencer space will try to early adopt these new platforms because they want to get more traction because there's less people there. So if they're first in, they get more
Early adopters. Yeah.
the early adoption spam. That's what happens with a lot of these platforms. Some of them blow up, some of them don't. But I've always chosen to adopt relatively slowly to some of these things, which that's why guys like Ryan Pineda and those guys blew up is because they were on TikTok first.
Yeah.
Is they just happened to join their social media journey and at a time where that was blowing up. They joined it. They got 1 million followers there, and then it kind of relayed into other business for them.
At a time too where you had the pandemic going on, where everybody was on their phone and looking for the next best thing. Man.
Well, thanks for taking us way off topic today, Saied.
Wow, Christopher.
I walked in, you started getting sassy. This is where we're at.
I don't even know. We don't even know how long we've been going. This should be interesting.
About an hour.
When we go. No, way past that.
No, we're about an hour, and we were about an hour and 10, hour and 20.
I'll go an hour and 20.
Okay, well, it's all good.
That's good. It's a normal episode for us.
Are you gonna edit this, or are we gonna forward it to Haroon and be like, listen, just because you work from home don't mean you don't work?
Yeah. I won't drop. I don't want us to give them a surprise that I'll probably try to tackle it.
All right. Well,
you got anything else for the listeners?
Yeah, and I know one of them is not Haroon, so we love you, brother.
Yeah, we do love you, brother. We'll find out if you listen or not.
You think he's gonna start listening to the show now?
I hope so.
I don't think so.
If you're still listening to us, head over to Apple or Spotify. Leave us an honest 5-star review. If you're watching us over on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell, hit that like button. Let's do all the moist, goody good stuff.
I haven't had a moist, goody good stuff in a while from you.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Enjoy. Hopefully everyone's enjoying the weekend and having a happy Thanksgiving.
And are we gonna record on Wednesday? Because it's the day before Thanksgiving. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, unless you got plans.
I have no plans.
Okay, I got no plans. I'll see you here.
Maybe we should
get a turkey.
Come dressed as turkeys.
You're not down. You're not.
We're not getting a turkey outfit.
I don't even know what that was.
There's a turkey sound.
Good night, everybody. Good day.